camera here any moment as we bring in Jamil Jaffer, Executive Director, National Security Institute at George Mason. He's live today from Lisbon, Portugal. So thanks for hopping on with us, Jamil. What's your reaction to what we heard here from Hamas today?
Well, Connell, look, obviously it's a good sign that Hamas might be willing to hand over the hostages in exchange for a ceasefire. The challenge, of course, is the president's proposed a 21-point peace plan, and Hamas hasn't weighed in on a lot of the other pieces, which include them giving up their weapons and giving up power. They've agreed to a technocratic government in Gaza, which is a good sign, and that's a step in the right direction. But they've also said they want changes to the plan. They want to see additional measures with respect to Palestinian statehood or the Palestinian people. And so it's not clear to me they're going to get that kind of those kind of changes. So the question is, look, the deal on the table is a pretty reasonable deal as it goes. And so, at this point, it seems reasonable to expect they would accept it. The president, I think, for his part, it sounds like, we'll see what he says, but it sounds like he thinks, Connell, that they're in the right place and he wants Israel to at least pause the bombing. So we'll see what Prime Minister Netanyahu does with that.
All right, new reaction just in, and get to Trump in a moment, from Qatar, that nation welcoming the deal from Hamas. Of course, it's played middleman in all of this, so that just came in. Now, as for the president, as you said, we'll see what he says. We know what he posted. I told everybody about this just as it was breaking, but if we have President Trump's Truth Social post, let's put that up on the screen from just a short time ago, where he calls on, I think the key point from the president's statement is what he says about Israel, but he says, based on the statement just issued by Hamas, I believe they're ready for a lasting peace. And here it is. Israel must immediately stop the bombing of Gaza so that we can get the hostages out safely and quickly. Again, the president wrote this. He's going to speak on camera. Right now, it's far too dangerous to do that. We're already in discussions on details to be worked out. This is not about Gaza alone. It's about long-sought peace in the Middle East. What about that and how Netanyahu will take that, Jamil?
Well, look, I mean, I think the challenge is the president, like he does often, is reacting in real time to what he's seeing without necessarily the full advice of all his advisors, the people who could translate what Hamas has said, what that means politically. And he's sort of reacting sort of like the deal maker that he is. Look, these guys told me they're in. Prime Minister Netanyahu told me he's in. Let's get this thing done. Let's get this deal done. And of course, it's a lot more complicated in international politics because Hamas did not say yes to the dresses aware. They didn't say yes to the deal. They said yes, but we want these changes, and yes, but we'll agree to these points, but they didn't say anything about giving up their weapons. So maybe Hamas wants lasting peace. Maybe they don't. If the president's offered, I think, a very smart and reasonable deal, very different than the things he said previously about this conflict. So the deal is a good one on the table for both sides. Both have to give up something, but at the end of the day, a decent deal. It's a deal that both sides should agree to. The Israelis apparently are on board, although Prime Minister Netanyahu himself walked back parts of it as well. Now Hamas is doing the same thing. The president trying to force it to happen. We'll see how this goes.
Okay, and again, we expect to hear from the president this evening. We saw him in the Oval Office recording a message that we would think would be posted relatively soon, at least to social media, and we'll pass it along. Jamil, thank you. Jamil Jaffer with us. The Hill coming